Okay, the point he's saying here is there's very big, beautiful Akdama with our orders, which we looked at, which send us to look at the Sikhs, which I need to look at in great detail. And that is how every aspect of Torah is an eternal message. And he makes the point, and this is from Hillel Paritsha, that Tanakh, many stories, of course, happened to our ancestors. Not all of them are recorded. Not all of the events are recorded. So what is recorded are those things which have eternal relevance and a message. Actually, not mamash eternal, because Moishe Mashiach, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim become obsolete, because it's more his oidus in dealing with Golos and so on. But anyway, they are eternal, certainly till that time. And it could be, I have to find the source, that even in Moishe Mashiach, just like Torah itself, there are, the teichach. The teichach certainly, surely is not relevant in Moishe Mashiach, and yet the teichach remains, because its pnimius is all brachas and very deep connections. So probably the same thing will happen even with Nevi'im and Ksuvim. When you say it'll be bottle, it means bottle, it's the simple meaning, the chetzonistic meaning, but its pnimius meaning will continue.
There's always lessons to learn from.
But there is lessons, but the lessons usually deal with struggle, with the Yitzhahara, with an imperfect world. But a perfect world, you don't need that kind of lesson. So it's not just a lesson, it's those very words of rebuke actually contain bracha and hayrois in Avodas Hashem and Asay Tov. I'm just saying this as a hergish, as this is pure hergish. I cannot imagine that the Rebbe would dismiss Moishe Mashiach, the words of the Nevi'im, and tell him that Yidden said and held sacred for thousands of years. It's just not the Rebbe's way. He's going to reveal in those words the bracha and the pnimius, which is forever. At any rate, so the story is the Isha Achas. So it's all akdama to the pratim of the story of the Haftarah, Pashas Vayera, and the Hiros and Avodas Hashem. But we didn't finish in the first part, which we'll do now. Oh, we did we? Adam. Yeah, we basically did. No, we didn't. We can start with Ve'ein Loima. No, we didn't. Okay, we'll start then from Valderes at the top of the page. Valderes, I think you have page Ein Gimel. I don't know if you have the same page numbers. Do you?
32.
Okay. Valderes. So he said before that, he was talking about every letter and word of Torah being the word of Hashem and therefore eternal. But the word of Hashem, and he spoke about Sefer Dvarim, which we looked at in the Ha'aris, that even though Sefer Dvarim, they are Moishe Rabbeinu's words, still it's the same Kedusha as the rest of the Torah, and explain the difference. And they also added Torah Shebal Peh. Even someone who says one thing of Torah Shebal Peh is not from Hashem, so that's Kfirah. And they continues this, not just the mitzvahs, but the stories. If we don't relate to the Torah's directives in the stories, and if he's not relating to the messages, not only is he missing the message, that particular message, he's missing instructions, even the halachas. So if there's one part of Torah which is not divinely talking to you now as a message, then none of it is. It's a meridic statement. But like a Sefer Torah, which is missing one letter, so not the pshat. So that section is missing. That word is missing. And as a pagan, bekashrus kol ha Sefer Torah. The whole Sefer Torah is invalid. The kiven shechelik musim b'Torah in the nitzchi elov. If there's one part of Torah that for him is not eternal, this time it doesn't exist. It doesn't relate. It doesn't talk to him. That is a psul. The way the whole Torah is by him. The Torah that he's relating to begin with is invalid if there's even one part of it that is not eternal. Why? Because it's emes and it's atzmi and it cannot be divided. Likewise, the story in this Haftarah, this strengthens what I'm saying, that even Yemais Mashiach, if the Rebbe is equating this mamish to Kol HaTorah Kula, even Yemais Mashiach, even though it says that Asidim Libotel, Nevim Meksuvim, but Bepnimius it won't be. Even though it was a literal story, in addition to the fact that no pasuk ever leaves its simple meaning, and it actually happened as recorded. The Gemara reckons that there are 16 miracles that Elisha performed. That Elisha requested from Eliyahu before he passed away. Eliyahu said, "Request of me, and I will fulfill it." So he asked him. He wants double of Eliyahu's Ruach HaKodesh and prophetic prowess because of the challenges that he was facing, and the people should accept him, even though he was only Eliyahu's disciple and unknown. So since he asked for double, so since we find that there were 8 Mofsim Beliyo, we find 16 that Elisha did, Pishnayim. And the Gemara reckons the 16 Mofsim. So this is one of them. The story of the oil. Right? The creditor coming to be told the story. You're all familiar with it. Moving sheyesh Hashem. It's obviously there's a lesson in Avedas Hashem. And he cannot say, well, the Torah has to write it for another reason. Because he asked double, we have to be able to see in his life, in the narrative, that he had 16, he had double the mofsim of Eliyahu. That's why Torah writes it. That is not so. The Torah can say, the Nevi'im could say that he went on to perform 16 miracles. Maspik. So the Pishnayim was fulfilled. So the fact that the Torah doesn't just record there how many, but the nature of the miracles themselves, since the Torah tells the story, will become a protim and in detail muchach, we must conclude perforce the general story, and v'chol protov and the details which were established in the Torah and the Nevi'im. This is in Sefer Malachim Beis. So the Rebbe introduced the statement of Rabbi Parach, and he was masbir it. This akdom about the nitzchis of Torah, and the Rebbe elaborated, and then but the hesber is going to be a maimer of the Alter Rebbe that just was redeemed from captivity. Then Tavshin Chafei, Pidyon Shvuim. Now, friends, since we're learning, Heitev is Pidyon Shvuim, exactly, and there's still Nachman Litzlan Shvuim, hostages languishing in captivity. So, since we're learning our Pidyon Shvuim, they should help that there should be Pel Mamish. Pidyon Shvuim of all neshamas Yisrael. So this is and I was going to quote the Lashon of the Alter Rebbe. In the Ha'orah, he brings there that there's a bichel, a bundle of manuscripts where this maimer appears. And it states there that this was answered to someone in a question in Yechidus, which will explain the language here. It says the Alter Rebbe, Kishem shetzeikim b'Yechidus al richukim melikim chayim. In the same way that they're crying out in Yechidus that he's far from the living God. Right? This is what Yechidus is. Not brachas, not only, I should say at least, and not be'ikr even, not for Chassidei Chabad, brachas for panos and everything else. But Eirois and Avodas Hashem. I'm just reminded that Purim Tovshin Chai. I can't do justice to this. I could read it from the Sikha. You have to hear it in the Yiddish. Everybody has to hear Purim Tovshin Chai many times. It's a unparalleled Fabrengen. 7-8 hours. The Rebbe spoke privately to people, and the Rebbe drank Begashmias, the entire bottle of Benedictine at the Fabrengen, and he'd already had a whole bottle with the Rebbetzin before he came to the Fabrengen, and you can kind of hear that from the get-go. So Begashmias, a man drinks 2 bottles of, and sits in one place for 8 hours. I mean, you push it the Maimon Derech in Teva, and especially when you listen to the Maimon, to the Sikh. We learned the Maimon years ago of Purim Tovshin Chai, a long, deep, Meredike Maimon, which the Rebbe had no physical recollection of later. He remembered what he said till the Maimon, and he called in the Bjerl and Avel Moshem Tev the Chaz, the rest of the Fabrengen. At some point, he said that's what he said was a Maisa with the Megillah halacha thing. So that's what he said. I said, yeah. He said, no, Stam as a market. Because it was mamash a chiddush nifla. He didn't. There's so much there. Anyways, and that Fabrengen, the Rebbe said, after I read it, he says, maybe someone will ask for a bracha, not in social, not in about a hospital, and not in social. I think it's social sciences, or in panos. I'll ask for a bracha and Avodas Hashem. Maybe someone will ask for a bracha. I'm not doing justice. Well, I'll bring it tomorrow. Beis Hashem will read it. Nonetheless, he kept on pouring the brachas v'gashmias, but that's not the. All right, so tzer can be yechidus. So what's a yid coming to the Rebbe and crying out in yechidus al richukim melikim chayim, on his distance from the living God. So Cain sagt der alte Rebbe, Cain v'yesim mekain. Likewise, and even more so, kol neshama ba'aleisa b'layla. Every neshama when it ascends on high at night. So Achas b'keil mar calls out with a bit of voice al richuka melikim chayim, on her distance from the living God. For Omar, not everyone to say this is the meaning of the story here. I'll post the I'll P. Ve'isha Achas min bnei anivim. So the story was that there was a certain woman from the wives of the prophets, and she was the wife of Avadia. Right? And Avadia had borrowed from Yehoram, who was now, he borrowed heavily to sustain and hide and feed the Bnei Anavim, the true young aspiring prophets, who Achav and his wife Yezebel were mercilessly persecuting. And he borrowed, he died in great debt. And now the debtor is coming to claim the money, which he doesn't have, and he's threatening to take her 2 children as slaves. So she comes to Elisha and she says, Aftach Ishimeis, and he was a God-fearing person. Avaji, he was Avaji the Navi. He worked in the court. He worked in the court of Achav. And so the whole miracle of the oil, what you have in the house, is nothing but a small cruse of oil and pouring it. Kept on pouring, and with this you'll pay the debt and even have a profit. So now he teaches Isha Achas. What's the Isha Achas, the woman? The Isha, first of all, he b'chinas neshama. And the Isha goes on the neshama of every Yid, and he kras Isha Yiras Hashem, as the pasuk says in Neshes Chayil. Isha Yiras Hashem. The neshama is God-fearing by its very nature. Achas, one, a woman of oneness, meaning Asheri Achas in Mavaya, the neshama is one with the Eibush, with Havaya. Min the Sheb, Bnei Anavim, she goes into the safe from the. She was the person describes her as a wife of one of the Bnei Anavim, means like the aspiring prophets, even though BMSC was a Navi, and he sustained Bnei Anavim. Akaponim. So what's Nevi'im? Shuke'ein inyan Nevuah. So what's the inyan of Nevuah? Shinya Nevuah, the word Nevuah, Lashon lips for sign, the lips move, the lips communicating, meaning that the neshama receives God's word. God speaks in the neshama, B'nei Anavim receives it. Shemekablim, the neshama feels God's words and God's communication. Cain called neshama, so every neshama, he klikibu lekabel asogas v'gilu likus. You see, in order 18. Hadik b'nei anavim si placharim, and that's from the from Hilaparishim, which is based. Okay, I don't have one. The dik of b'nei anavim. So anyway, Neviim, it's not mavayid here b'nei anavim, but it's mavayid the word Neviim, and that means a neshama who receives God's word, God's revelation, God's communication. That defines the neshama l'maylo. That's how it was. Isha achas mibnei anavim. Then the pasuk continues. Tzoka el Elisha. She's crying out to Elisha. Notrikon. So the word Elisha is broken up into two words. Elisha, my God, turned to me. Miloshen vayesha vayel hevel. God turned to Hevel's korban. Peter showed the taich. Therefore, was Elisha. Show Eli turned to me. The neshama cries out to the Eibush to turn to me. What happened to me? I don't recognize myself. This now is the neshama coming here into the goof, and the neshama's lament is, its cry is, Avdacha ishimbeis, your servant, my husband died. That's what she said to Elisha, right? Avadja died. Pirush, so what's the Pirush? But Pnimius Ishi, who eish yud, my fire for godliness, it died. Shebchinis eish yud, the fire for the kushaya etzli, which I had, bislahavos vislahatos. What's Aleph Hey? Av, with a flaming, slavus, slavus means also, lav means a flame also. Both words mean a flame. The flaming and passionate love, berish be'esh, like tongues of fire, likolel, to be incorporated, v'libatel, to become one, nullified. Pchinas yud, eish yud, what's yud? Chach milah. Chach milah is bittul, meis etzli. I don't feel this love anymore. And you know, she goes on to say, that your servant was God-fearing. Pirish Yoreh, what does it mean? Yoreh Oisius, Yo'er, illumination. Yoreh means to illuminate, to shed light, to bring light. Shahoye boy koyach lahoisiv toisvis oir bavaya. That you know that your servant, not clear whether this is Lamaida or Lamata, Neshama down here or up there, but at any rate, that Neshama has the power to illuminate what? The Eibishter's name. Toisvis. That is the taich. He illuminated. That's how great is the avodah. You see a footnote? Anything there? He called neshama b'koich. Every neshama has the koich to do so. The lament is it's not happening, but it could happen. And so now what's happening? The creditor is coming to take my two children as slaves. Pirush, what's Vanoisha? Miloshin kinashan yelikim. Yosef named Menashe, because God made me forget my travails. So what's the name of in Yonim? It means to forget. Shezeo koyal nefesh habaham is She mashkechas eisim alikus. The Shabbat makes me forget godliness. In Bola Kachas Eshnei Yolodai, it's one thing to forget. And now he's coming to take my two children. What's the two children? Named Tchila V'Rechimo. That is Yira and Ava. The love that I used to have for you, he wants to take it for himself. He wants that these loves should be enslaved to him. To foreign loves, taivas, desires, haguf of the body, v'lirois and foreign fears, pen yachser lachmoi, the fear of maybe he won't have bread for tomorrow. So foreign loves and foreign fears. What's he loving? Taivas. And what he's afraid of, what he's feared, not of the Eibishter, but he's afraid he won't have bread on the table tomorrow. Okay, so as we once explained, so we learned this, the Mugadik Maimon of the Rebbe. So just to make it clear, and to spell this out in a relationship, in a marriage, because that's what we're talking about. Ishi, and the Neshama is married to the Eibishter. So the first thing is to come to the Rav, hopefully not to the counselor, unless there's a Chassidish counselor. The first thing is after Ishi Meis. Out, the passion is gone, the fire is gone. Then it got worse. Not only the passion that we had in the beginning is dead, but forget the creditors can go through a day and even forget that I'm married. It's not front and center. It's worse than no passion. At least there's a conscious commitment, but it's distant. They even forget. And then what would appear to be the death. What's a death knell, death toll, death knell to the marriage would be that I'm getting entangled elsewhere. That the love and the respect that I used to have is going to foreign loves and foreign places. So it would appear that this marriage is beyond salvation. No passion, just even forget I even have a partner. And then worse, getting entangled elsewhere. So the rabbi says then why are you here? And the answer is, well, I'm married. Oh, so that's the Nekuda Atzmi. That's the cruise of oil, which we'll see is the eighth. Just remember the story. What did Elisha say? So what do you have left in the house? A cruise of oil. That's the Nekuda Atzmi. I'm a Yid. You're talking about the Neshama. So what's passion for God? No. A day goes, an hour can go by, you forget there's an Eibush in the world. He's not front and center. And I get busy and I'm excited about everything else but the Likus. So what's left with you? I'm a Yid, don't deny that. I don't deny that I'm a Jew. That's the Pachechat Shemen, Shaykhs to Chanukah. So he tells her, back to the story, he says, okay, go outside, send the kids, empty vessels from your neighbors, not a few, many as you can. Empty kalim and pour into these kalim. We'll see what that means. He's going to touch it all in Avodas Hashem. Elisha. So you guys tell me. So what's the foreign ava and what's the foreign yira? You just said
Taivas.
And the foreign fear.
So worry about your bread on table.
Yeah. That's what preoccupies me. That's where I'm emotionally invested. So what do you have in the house? Look out at 23, Pirish Bepnimius. So what's left of you? And she said, and I only have a cruise of oil. Pirush I'm a Yid. That's left. There's no emotion, certainly no intellectual investment. Etzem Nekudas Neshama. Why is oil the symbol of Etzem Nekudas Neshama? So B'chal says, yes, this is because Pashut oil separates, like etzem. Oil separates from all liquids. Etzem is divorced from any particular manifestation. It manifests in all of them, but it's not limited to a particular manifestation. Right? The motion for etzem is the atom, and atom can be manifested in endless ways, gas, solid, liquids, etc. But the atom per se transcends a particular ispashtus and gilu, like oil separates from all liquids. I've added b'derech efshe. I didn't see this anywhere in May. It's great. I don't know if it's true, if it is gehalten, but b'derech efshe. That organic matter, when it breaks down, the final breakdown is petroleum, is oil. It's the essence of all living things. Olei yeshleim. So what's the Avdetzim and Shomek? And it's continue by Yoma. So what does Elisha tell her? Kelim Reikim Altamiti. Empty vessels, not a few. So what's the meaning of empty vessels? She explains. Actually, the Alter Rebbe brings two pirushim here, and he brings one. Okay, pirush K'mayim Rav Mesifte Began Eden, like the quotation quoted in Zoya of the Rosh Hashiva, the Reish Mesifte, in Gan Eden, who said, this is quoted in Tanya, oh, a stick, which fire doesn't catch. So what do? You splinter it. Kach gufa, body, likewise, that is solig bein the Hira, the Nishma said that the fire of the Neshama will not take hold, to break the guf. The solig bein the Hira, and the fire will take hold. This is what Abish is saying. He's saying, Kelim Reikim, empty vessels, meaning Shetzorech Lizbein and Harbe. You should think a lot, and it's out of 26. That's the meaning of not a few. Altamiti. A person should be misbein, then he should humble himself, shatter himself. Eishul Klireikon is an empty vessel, Belishum Das B'Mayach. There's no Das in his head. Now, it doesn't say it doesn't have Chachma and Bina, because he may. He cannot sach my morim. He doesn't have das. He's not connecting to it. It's information stored in his head. There's no das. And there's no dechilo, there's no yire, rechimbo, and there's no ave. And he should become embittered, exceedingly embittered on his distance. And cry out to the Eivishal Rechuka Melikim Chayim on his distance from the living God. Huh? Yeah, you're right. The source of life. So what's the answer? The Chayr is already crying out. He's already cried out. Tzakal Elisha. So what's he adding? Anybody? It was, the pity of it all. Pity. Now it's not just a pity, it's tzaka b'mar nafshe. The reika. Not sure. What's, there's already the tzaka. So what's his burniness? Yeah, ultimately, yeah. It's not, yeah. I mean, obviously, take this really to heart, but I don't know if this is the pshat or not, but I'm just thinking about the way this plays out, in the rabbi's office. So they come, they want to fix the marriage, but if not, nicht. So he has to make them understand that no, this is an untenable matziv. And there's no alternative and it has to be fixed. This is bitter. And clear reikon. And without each other, you're empty. I'm just adding this clear reikon. You're empty, you're void. Marriage is not just something else in your life. And I don't, it's not working, but, otherwise, okay, basically you're okay. No, clear it's not acceptable. You smarmen have to be embittered. It's very important, because that's the beginning of the Yeshua. When it can't be like this, we must change. Not it'll be nice if we change, but we have to change. My wife was listening. I don't know who this guy is, but my niece, Rivka Krinsky, she does this podcast. You probably heard. She's not a Lubavitcher, but he actually was talking about the Rebbe. The Rebbe's approach to all this. He's a spyless. He's a marriage counselor, and he's no nonsense. And he says that most marriages, vast majority, can be saved. I mean, if there's abuse, obviously not physical, mental. But then it could really, I can't just say like this, if it's not negotiable, we have to find a solution. One says bitter, and we appreciate our differences and get over yourself, it'll work. You got to come clear. Not her fault. Clear. I'm empty. Let's finish those. So then the achakach yovayis and that from this will come not just restoring the marriage to what it was, but taking it to a whole new level and beyond even the most glorious and passionate beginnings usually of the marriage. As the Maimer goes on to explain, at least after Rebbe's Maimer, when we learned, because the beginning, all that passion was, I love the way you make me feel. Of course, it didn't last. That's the passion of the neshama l'mayla. It's very selfish. The neshama learns here emes av, a love for you based on bittul, on klirekan. That's forever. Privileged to be in a relationship with you. I'm empty. I'm nothing. Because the true light comes from darkness. We'll just conclude. And he concluded, Elisha, you and your children will live with the remainder. At goes on the essence of the neshama that paradoxically is unlocked. Dafke lemata, not lemayla. The deepest connection to the Eibush is dafke lemata. The deepest connection to your soulmate is dafke through the separation. Then you and your children, the love and fear, or the fear and love, will come back invigorated in a whole new level because it's based on selfishness, on selflessness, on avodah, on privilege, on bittul, and it's a whole different category of love. You will live with the noiser, the prophet, a transformation. The word noiser hinting to the advantage of light that comes from darkness transformed. Ken yizaken Hashem, ken yihir otzinomin. Ad kan l'shoyin nevu of the bichol of the Alter Rebbe. Okay, Be'ez Hashem to be continued tomorrow.